today we are going to finish up this unit with important bio vocab. So this is concepts and words that we're going to see throughout the rest of the zoology course. So it's important that we get a refresher on this so that when we go into each unit from here on out, we're not confused on what these terms mean. So earlier we discussed that all living things have to be able to obtain and use energy. So remember, obtaining energy is how they get their food. Do they make their own or they have to go find food somewhere else? So when an organism can make their own food, we call them autotrophs. Okay, so they use molecules from their environment, usually photosynthesis, to make their own food. Okay, auto is self, right? So self-feeding, essentially. They're also known as producers. They are primary producers, so they begin the food chain. These are going to be all of our plants, algae, and some bacteria. Almost all organisms depend on these guys for food that they produce. So our herbivores, okay, something that only eats plants, are dependent on these guys for all of their nourishment. So if these guys aren't there, they will not survive. And then on the opposite side, okay, heterotrophs. So if you are an autotroph, you make your own food. If you're a heterotroph, you cannot make your own food and you need to eat or absorb it from somewhere else. So we have producers, which are autotrophs, and heterotrophs are what we call consumers. Okay, so all animals, fungi, and some bacteria and protists, they are heterotrophs, meaning that they need to go out and find their food. So in these pictures, that fungus is feeding on the tree log, absorbing the nutrients from inside the tree. The tree is our primary producer, right? It was alive doing photosynthesis, and now it has the fungi on it, feeding the fungi. And then we have our butterfly and our flower. The flower is an autotroph because it photosynthesizes and makes its own food. And then the butterfly is feeding on the nectar from the flower. Okay, so the butterfly is a heterotroph. Okay, fungi do not photosynthesize. This is a major misconception that many students have. Fungi are decomposers. They break down dead stuff. They take things out of the soil or they grow on dead things. Okay, when we get to different fungi, we'll talk about that more. Okay, we discussed that all living things are made of cells to be considered living. Two types of cells. This is going way back to bio, prokaryote versus eukaryote. So remember, a prokaryotic cell, they do not have a nucleus. Okay, there is DNA in the cell still, but it's just kind of floating around. It does not contain one nucleus. Prokaryotes are always unicellular, which means they're made of one cell. And then they include bacteria and archaea. Archaea are extremophiles. They live in the hydrothermal vents. They live in the mouth of a volcano. They are everywhere that you do not want to be. Okay, so our bacteria and our archaea are prokaryotic cells that do not have a nucleus. Then we have eukaryotic cells. These guys are the opposite of prokaryotic cells, where they have a nucleus that houses the DNA, and these are going to be our plants, animals, fungi, and protists. They're often multicellular. We do have a few unicellular animals, such as the amoeba. Okay, some of our protists are unicellular, but for the most part, you're going to see them multicellular. We're going to talk about a concept called symbiotic relationships in almost every unit that we go through, because in nature, you're always going to have organisms that work together. Obviously, there's going to be predatory relationships where we're hunting one for food, but there's many, many occasions where animals will work together for a common benefit. Okay, so those are called symbiotic relationships. It's a close relationship between two different species where at least one species benefits. Okay, and there's 3 different types of symbiotic relationships. And we are going to talk about them a little bit more in the next chapter, but let's just see if we have the idea going for 2 species in which one benefits. So, is this symbiosis? A bird builds a nest in the tree is unaffected, but the bird gets a safe place to raise its young. Is this symbiotic? Is there one species benefiting from this relationship? Yes, there is. The tree is this one species and the bird is the other species. The tree is unaffected, meaning that it's not being harmed, it's not benefiting from it, it's just kind of like whatever. Whereas the bird is like, yay, I have a place to put my nest. So the bird would be benefiting here. This is what we call a commensalism relationship. We'll talk about that later. So, is it symbiosis? A dog sleeps in a bed. Now we have to ask ourselves, is at least one species benefiting? And are there 2 species involved? No, there's only one species involved here, our little dog. The bed is a non-living thing. So even though the dog is happy because it's in a nice comfy bed, the bed is not alive, so it cannot be having a symbiotic relationship with the bed. Next, a tapeworm lives inside the intestines of a human. The tapeworm gets a home and food, and the human loses weight. Are there 2 species involved? Yes. A tapeworm is one, human is the other. Is there a close relationship? Yes, the tapeworm lives inside the human and gets its home and food, and the human loses weight. Is at least one species benefiting? Yes, the tapeworm is going to be benefiting here. Okay. The human losing weight, that is not like the yay, I've lost a couple pounds, I'm healthy weight. This is like you will be very, very sick if you have a tapeworm and you lose weight. We'll talk about tapeworms later on when we get to our worms unit. Here's another one. 2 male deer compete over a female. Are there 2 species involved? No, those 2 look like the same species to me. Competition is not a symbiotic relationship. Okay. A lion hunts and kills an antelope. Are there 2 species involved? Yes, lion, antelope. Is there a close relationship? Yes, lion kills antelope. Is at least one species benefiting? Yes, the lion's benefiting, but the caveat here is that predation is not symbiosis. Okay, there's no relationship of them working together. A human's intestines are full of bacteria. The bacteria help the human break down food, and the bacteria get a home and nutrition. There are 2 species, humans and bacteria. Close relationship, yes, human gets food broken down, bacteria get a home and food. So they're both benefiting. That's a mutualistic relationship. Okay, so like I mentioned before, there's 3 different types of symbiotic relationships. The first one is mutualism. Think of, the feeling is mutual, right? We both have the same feeling. We're both benefiting. So this is the stereotypical Finding Nemo reference of the clownfish and the sea anemone. The clownfish and sea anemone share a symbiotic relationship where each benefits the other. The clownfish provides protection for the sea anemone by luring its predators and deterring fish that might otherwise eat the anemone. And in return, the sea anemone gives the clownfish a safe shelter within its stinging tentacles, protecting the clownfish from predators. Okay, also the clownfish helps provide nutrients to the sea anemone through their waste, helping it grow. The clownfish have a special kind of slimy covering on the outside of them so that they don't get stung by the anemone. But the main thing to note here is that both the clownfish is getting protection and the sea anemone is also getting protection from the clownfish. So they're both benefiting here. Then we have commensalism. Commensalism is where one species benefits and the other is unaffected. Okay, one is super happy and the other one's like, meh. Okay, so remoras, the little fish that you usually see following around the big sharks, are also called suckerfish. Okay, they have a modified dorsal fin that acts like a suction cup that allows them to stick themselves to large marine mammals and sharks. Okay, and the benefit for them is that they can hitch a ride on the shark. Remoras get access to the shark's leftover scraps from its meals. Sharks, when they go in to eat something, they're not very clean eaters. So being able to be right by the shark's mouth ensures that they get some extra food. And then the nurse shark doesn't really lose anything or gain anything from having the remora attached. Okay, it doesn't really affect them whatsoever. Okay, so that is the nurse shark being like, meh, whatever, and the remora super happy he's getting free food. And then lastly, parasitism. So you guys have heard of parasites. This is where one species benefits and the other one is harmed. So a tick and a deer. Okay, ticks are blood-sucking parasites that attach themselves into the skin of mammals. We can get ticks as well. Okay, and they feed on the infected organism's blood. As ticks feed, they can transmit a bunch of diseases like Lyme disease. So the ticks get the blood as a meal, and in return, the deer will end up with Lyme disease, become very, very sick, and possibly not survive. Okay, so that is parasitism. So we have mutualism, which is thumbs up, parasitism, which is thumbs down, and then commensalism, where it's like, meh, it's fine. All right, so let's take a look at which one is which based on a little passage. All right, ready? So which type of symbiotic relationship is it? So the female brachionoid wasp lays her eggs on the tobacco hornworm larva. When the wasp larvae hatch, they burrow into the hornworm, feeding on its bodily fluids while strategically avoiding vital organs to keep the hornworm alive. Eventually, the wasp larvae emerge from the hornworm's body and undergo metamorphosis and develop into adult wasp. The hornworm often dies because of this relationship. What do we think? So we have the wasp and the hornworm. Those are our two species. The wasp lays its eggs and takes over the hornworm's body, and hornworm eventually dies. That's going to be parasitism. Okay, super gross. Next one, say ah. Plover birds are known for their habit of picking food scraps and parasites from the teeth and scales of crocodiles, often fearlessly entering the reptiles' mouths. The plover bird benefits by obtaining a source of food and protection from these predators. In return, the crocodile benefits from improved oral hygiene as the birds remove food remnants and parasites from hard-to-reach places. So we have the bird and the alligator. The alligator gets a nice teeth cleaning and the bird gets food. So they're both benefiting, which means it's mutualism.